We've got a big show mapped out for everyone today, but make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single piece of breaking news or rumors for the Browns, as it's going to be a very interesting offseason. There are rumors out there that the Browns have made a decision, and it's a change at the quarterback position, as Brad Stainbrook from the Orange and Brown Report is reporting that Dorian Thompson-Robinson will start for the Browns in Week 16 against the Bengals. Now, no Big J, Rappaport, Schefter has come out and said that DTR is going to start, but I think Brad's a good reporter for the Browns. He's a good job of following the team, so I'm going to run with this story right here and sink my teeth into it, and I think it's probably got some substantial legs to it, and we'll see number 17 start on Sunday for Cleveland in Cincinnati, which means it is officially over for the Jameis Winston experience, which we all love to say, in Cleveland. I just don't see a way that you bench a quarterback who is on a one-year contract and then re-sign him in the upcoming following for offseason. So Winston's time in Cleveland has likely come to an end, and it's the same reason why his time in Tampa Bay came to an end. Yes, he threw 33 touchdowns his final season with the Buccaneers. He also threw 30 interceptions. And if you prorated all of his stats from his time as a starter for the Browns, he would have nearly the same stat line he had his final year in Tampa, which led to him being a free agent, not being brought back, and not being signed as a starter, but going to New Orleans to be a backup for Drew Brees. Ultimately, the turnovers were too much. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to go, those are a lot of turnovers. That is not winning football. Can you win sometimes? Yeah. And ultimately, the Browns' 2 wins with Winston compared to 1 with Watson came in games where he had 0 or 1 turnovers. But the last couple of weeks have just been too many to overcome. I mean, he has been scoring more touchdowns for the other team than his own team the last couple of games. He leads the NFL in interceptions by a wide margin since being named the starter with 12. Ultimately, as a team, the Browns were turning it over way too much because of Winston, and I'm not blown away by this decision. But if the Browns wanted to have any little inkling to bring back Winston to start for 2025, they had to keep starting him. I just don't see a world where you bench him and then go, hey, we actually want to re-sign you to start next year. That just makes no sense to me. That's not going to happen. So for Kevin Stefanski, he did not want to watch this season go down with loss after loss after loss, and it's very hard to find a winning formula when you lead the NFL in turnovers over the last 7-8 weeks with 19 after being so much better with the football compared to last year to open up the season. So now we turn our attention to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the 5th-round pick out of UCLA, and it is audition time for DTR. I don't want to be a rain cloud. I know everyone wants to hear positive things, but you know what? It's a 3-win team. Let's cut the crap here. I don't think it's going to go all that much better for DTR. He has come in relief twice this year, and he hasn't played very well. Now, it'll be different once he gets a full week to prep as the starter, and I'm hopeful that he can be better with, that much more extra time and preparation and whatnot and game planning around his skill set. But, yeah, you can kind of mark me down as someone who's not super high on DTR, and if he goes out and he balls out, hand up, I will say I was wrong. But my honest reaction and analysis is it's probably going to be worse, if not the same, in terms of offensive yardage, points, and probably turnovers under DTR than it was under Winston, but you simply had to make a change when Jameis threw, another multiple interception game, this time coming against the Chiefs, in a game where the Browns turned it over 6 times, and Winston was a part of majority of those turnovers. So I'll ask you right now, do you agree with the quarterback change? If you remember when Watson went down, I said, well, knowing the Browns are probably going to get all 4 quarterbacks to play a game at some point. Watson, Winston, DTR. The only guy left is Bailey Zappi. And I have full confidence at some point we will see Bailey Zappi step into the game for the Browns. So, sure, the more the merrier. That's the Browns quarterback way. At this point, I feel like it's not something to really go at each other's throats over. The season's lost. It's over. I don't think Winston or DTR is the long-term solution. But when you turn it over this many times in a short time span, you're not going to have a starting job for long. Before we get on to the rest of today's video, including some really important wish I said playoff, with some really important draft information. I do want to tell everyone watching about our friends over at Zbiotics. Anyone who may not bounce back after a night of drinking as well as they used to should probably listen up, because let's face it, when going out, I have a decision to make. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I found Zbiotics pre-alcohol. Pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on screen right now to get 15% off your order when you use ChatSports at checkout. From Thanksgiving feast to New Year's Eve celebrations, this holiday season is packed with events, but don't let the festivities leave you feeling less than merry. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic can help you savor the night and seize the next day. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use the code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Zbiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. To wrap up the quarterback portion of today's episode, my prediction, which I put it out in yesterday's episode, was I think we're probably going to see a cheap free agent start week 1, 2025. Deshaun Watson is going to be coming off an Achilles injury. There's just a chance from a medical side he might not be ready week 1, given that he suffered that injury midway through 2024. And if that's the case, the Browns can kind of use that as a reasoning for why they just don't want to start him, because they can say it's because he's injured, while kind of appeasing both sides of not coming out and admitting, hey, this entire thing was a complete and colossal mistake and we have officially benched him. No, they'll say it's because of the injury. So who are some free agent quarterbacks out there? One that I'm looking at right now is Jacoby Brissett. The best of the bunch is going to be Sam Darnold. If he continues to play like he has the last few weeks, how can the Minnesota Vikings not bring him back? So Brissett jumps out to me as someone that Kevin Stefanski has worked with, had success with, and could bring back. Another possibility is Justin Fields, although it doesn't really scream like a Stefanski-type quarterback, but beggars can't be choosers, and this is not a very good quarterback draft class. It's not as bad as the Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis draft class, but it's not too far away from it. So I don't think you're going to find a starting caliber quarterback in the draft, given where the Browns are projected to pick in round 1. And then you turn to free agency. You can't spend a ton on a guy like Darnold, even if the Vikings don't bring him back, because you just don't have that cap space. You don't have the room to devote that much more money to your quarterback room, given the prior investment already to it. But either way, the Browns are going to have to sign a quarterback. Like, they just need someone to at least facilitate the drills during OTAs and mini camp and into training camp until Deshaun Watson is healthy. So they are signing someone no matter what. The question is, do they go for a decent signing like a Sam Darnold, who I think is going to be out of their price range, or do they try and keep it close to a near minimum $4 to $6-ish million, kind of like Jameis Winston, and that's just someone who can kind of get them by until they feel Watson is ready. But either way, they are signing a quarterback in free agency. I think that quarterback may end up being the starter week 1, and then he'll probably get benched, and then they'll go back to Watson. Then Watson will ball out, and then the Browns will extend Deshaun Watson. I know, but he'll have 1 year left in his contract at that point with a ton of dead money towards the end of his contract. That way they can spread it out a little bit more. The fans are going to be pissed, and then Watson's going to suck again, and it's going to be a disaster forever and ever. As for the draft order, here's how things stand going into Week 16. The Browns currently have the 7th pick. Why are they picking 7th while the Patriots are picking 3rd and they're both 3-11? The tiebreaker is strength of schedule. If you have a difficult strength of schedule, you finish last for the tiebreaker, right? If you have an easy strength of schedule, meaning you played easier teams and you still finish with the same record as someone who played tougher teams, Well, you must be way worse than that team because you had an easy cupcake path and you still finished with 3 wins. So that's why the Browns are picking 7th while the Patriots are picking 3rd. The moral of the story here is even when the Browns try to suck, they still suck at sucking. They're 3-11 and they're not even picking top 5 at the moment. They used to be so good at sucking. Now they're bad at being good and bad at being bad. Now, ESPN put out some analytics in terms of what pick the Browns are likely to end up with. They give the Browns a 2.4% chance of having the number 1 overall pick, about a 50% chance of picking top 5, and essentially a 100% chance of picking in the top 10. So, right now, we're right teetering on the fence of picking 5, 6, or 7 in my estimation. If you want the Browns to pick closer to 1, here are some things you can root for aside from just the Browns losing, which they will probably do on their own. Week 16, Jags-Raiders play. So everyone that's ahead of the Browns in the draft order cannot lose out. There's going to be some friendly fire. I would say it's probably in the Browns' best interest if they want to move up in the draft order to have the Raiders win this game and they get to 3 wins. And then the Jags win this game and they get to 4 wins. And then the Jaguars are ahead of the Browns, and then the Browns are tied with the Raiders at 3 wins, and maybe Las Vegas wins 1 more game. Also, I'll just put this one on your radar. The Bills, of course, are not in contention for this, but if Buffalo has nothing to play for in Week 18 and they sit their starters, the Patriots at home, I could see Drake Maye beating Mitch Trubisky. And if the Patriots pick up win number 4, that's 1 more team the Browns could move ahead if Cleveland loses out. Speaking of the Browns' schedule and overall NFL schedule, there was some changes made to Week 17. So not this week against the Bengals, but the following week, the Browns were originally slated to play on Sunday Night Football against the Dolphins. We knew for a long time that game was not going to stay. It's been flexed to 4:05 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday Night Football is now Falcons at Commanders. So if you had any plans to go into the Dolphins game, do not show up at 8 p.m. Eastern, you will have missed the game. All right, before we get on out of here, who was your first favorite Browns player? I felt like today's episode had a major negative tone and theme to it because it's negative right now. It's a 3-win team. I'm not going to try and sell you guys on rainbows and pots of gold here. But a positive note to end the episode. First favorite Browns player. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to check us out over on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, what are you waiting for? Follow Browns Reports IG.